They just like comparing us, like they do not understand us at all.
Wait a minute, you didn't think it was over, did you? Now it's time for round 2. The Gen Zs came from somewhere, didn't they? They learned from someone, didn't they? Introducing the generation that paved the way for the Gen Zs, the Millennials. If you thought round 1 was intense, get ready.
Contenders respect each other.
This Friday at 3 p.m. We are women. We are brave, strong, capable, unique. We are women to women.
Good afternoon, South Africa, and here we are with another very special show for you. Instead of going places today, we are home. We are in Park Station, but not broadcasting from our studios. We have changed one of the rooms for our studio today so that we could bring more participants. I call it the second round of our fight, Gen Zs, and today the Millennials. But let me explain to you how did we land here today. When we were recording the Gen Zs, backstage, there was a fight. You need to know about my generation because we brought many of your behaviors come from our generation. And as the whole team here are part of the Millennials, they have requested, and upon public demand, we are here today to share with you the traits of the Millennials. Just watch it.
The inspiration behind the Millennial Show.
We should keep it 100. You want all of us to keep it 100, right? That's your saying. It comes from you. So, are you guys living in a realistic world or a virtualistic world? Because we are all realistic. We live in a realistic world. Or do you guys live in a virtualistic world? So, I said it wrong. It's not 100. It's 100. 100. And again, another question. Why do you guys spell things wrong? I don't understand. So you spell things wrong on purpose because it's a shortcut. Like I just realized now, they said season's greetings, right, in December. And then it was abbreviated as SZN, greetings. I didn't understand because there's no Z in season. So how do you come up with these season? Okay. So how are you doing? How HUD?
And it was at this moment that we realized that we needed a show where the Millennials had a say. And you're welcome.
So it is quite entertaining, and of course, because of Tommy, and Precious, we are here today to learn the do's and don'ts of the largest generation of all times. So know it. You are, guys, the leading generation in the world. You are more in numbers than the previous generation. That means probably they have more influence. But who are the Millennials? They are also called the Generation Y. Those who were born between 1981 to 1994 to 1996, according to the country and according to the social behavior. They are known as digital natives. Did you know that? That is how you are called. Last show, we had someone who said they are the me generation. But this one is here today, and let us see if they are the me generation. Let me talk a little bit about their characteristics.
Millennials have all kinds of labels, some great, others not so great. But by now, it's sure that you're familiar with this group. However, do you really know what actually defines a millennial generation? Well, let's find out. The millennials are aged between 25 years old to 40 years old. They have been described as the first global generation and the first generation to have grown up in the internet age. The generation is generally marked by the higher usage of and familiarity with the internet, mobile devices, and social media. This is how they got their name, digital natives. Millennials across the world have suffered significant economic disruptions since starting their working lives. Many faced high level of youth unemployment during their early years in the labor market, in the wake of the Great Recession, and suffered another recession a decade later due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But that's not all that characterizes the Gen Ys. Stay tuned because we're about to learn so much more about them. Oh yes, and prepare to be mind blown.
So as you can understand, I am the only one here, not part of this generation. And for me, as always, is a learning curve. Ground rules, contenders of today's round, okay? We are non-judgmental and we are very respectful of each other. And we hope that those of you, Gen Zs, who are going to now pay back, are going to be respectful as well. But it's very important to know our generation and moreover, for you guys, the influence you bring about to the world today. But before we go on and we explore the traits, positive and negative traits of this generation, I'm curious to know how much you know about your generation. So who wants to start? Girls? Okay.
Okay, I can say.
Yeah, you have the obligation to say.
We work smart but not hard.
You work smart but not hard.
Yes,
That's what you define.
Yes, that's where I think the term work smart and not hard began with us, because we had to figure ways to not really give to get tired doing something. We use more of our brains. So this is where the term really started. So I think the millennials, they believe in working smart but not hard.
Who else? Irene?
So I would say, especially with the being tech-driven, we use social media, but we use it to be innovative. So to come up with ideas, we business-driven. So we use the technology, as Tammy said, we use the technology to create better ways of doing things. Like instead of you pushing that van, the pearl van, you can come up with a machine that you can build and have that machine pick it up for you. So I would say our generation has been the most influential in terms of the tech space, like even businesses that have developed and improved the way we do things in the economy. It's because of our generation.
If I can also add a bit to that, I think our generation is the most versatile because we're the one who had the pre-internet days, the pre-internet times. We know how it was to not have internet, and we also know what it is to have the internet. We know the smartphone life and the not smartphone life. So I think the millennials are capable to adapt pretty well because we've seen both. If you take the previous generations, they can struggle a little bit with the technology, and the new generation can't live without the technology, of which we can have a little bit of both. We know what it is to be on a cell phone the whole time, but we also know what it is to play outside in the mud and in the rain. So I think the millennials, I don't know if I'm right. I hope I'm holding it down for the team.
Yes,
But
you
I
are
think
right.
it is the most versatile of the generations.
Would you say that your generation is a happy, confident generation? Yes. Why?
I could say that our generation is more confident and happy because we do not rely mostly on another person's opinion, because I think our generation is mostly that one that is influenced more by fear, because we have this thing that if I do this, I know when my mother promises to kill me, chances are she's gonna kill me. So we are more on, you are fearful but you are happy because later on when you look that I didn't do those mistakes that I wanted to make simply because I listened. So you become more happier. Like sometimes you find that someone who's younger than you, they're facing challenges that you like, but I listened more and I never got to be the way that you are because fear was instilled. Because also our generation is that one that is just after the old generation, whereby
Thank you.
yes.
You're calling me old.
It's just after the old generation whereby everything when it comes to internet, as they said, we're not exposed to it. So it's that moment whereby when you start being into internet, your mother's like, why are you doing that? I'm here, I'm sitting with you. So that would always bring fear. Whenever you wanted to experiment on something, your mother will tell you, if you get pregnant, your child would wear your t-shirt. Quickly, that made you to be afraid because we believe that whatever they would say, they're actually going to do it. So
I
it
think we
makes
need
us
to
happier.
rescue this value very, very quickly to this new generation. Another question. First that side and then this side. Would you say your generation is career-driven or entrepreneurs? Guys.
From my side, I think we are a little bit of both, career driven and also the other side of business. Why? Because of we grew up like at home. Like for me, when I finished my matric, my parents, they instilled this idea in me that you have to make sure you know what you want in life. Either you go to the side of business or you hold on being a doctor. That was something that most of us during our generation that we wanted to be doctors. We hold on we hold on that thing of being doctors. So that's why I'm saying it's a bit of both for us. So it's not like now, like the generation of now, when they have a space of what they can choose what to become. So for us, we knew that, okay, most of us, like maybe in my family, I know that my father was a businessman. So that's the career path. That's something that I will follow because my father was a businessman. Doesn't matter if I like to be, I have a passion of being a doctor, but for the sake of there's someone in the family, it runs through the whole generation. So it's not like the Jay-Z's, so we are a bit of both, yeah.
Girls.
I would say it is a bit of both because, firstly, a lot of us were the first to be in the schools that we're in. We're the first to be awarded the opportunities that we were awarded. But in some households, some parents instilled stability rather than also going for something that is unknown. So then for business, then they would want to first have that security. So a lot of them would start first working rather than what we see today when a person comes out from school immediately, I'm going to be a businessman. But our generation is that one that knows how to start from the ground, working up, but also knowing that should this not work out, I have something to fall back on. And that's something that you hear a lot with those that are in the entertainment industry that are from our generation, that they were always taught that, yes, you can want to be in the performing arts, but you need to study something and have something that should that not work out, you have something that will back you up. So I think we are in the bit of both. Yes, in South Africa, then we had the BEE movement where it was about business like being introduced more to our generation. then that's when we saw also the growth, because then people saw that, okay, there's a market for this, so how about I dabble into that and I do that. Then those that want to be professionals, then they also stayed in that. So I think our generation is half and half, because we have a bit of both in both sectors.
If you realize, I have made them to sit in the hot seat before this time, and I hope you have been taking note of their answers, because we are going to see who scored right, who scored wrong. Before we go on, let us hear about some of the very positive traits of your generation. And we are going to see if you agree or not, okay? Adventurous. Millennials were more likely to study abroad than previous generations. Achievement-oriented, tech-savvy, fearless, concerned about global issues, well-educated. The millennials are more likely to be college-educated than previous generation. Self-reliance. Do you identify yourselves with this? Now, it's interesting to say, before we go to the negative, that the millennials are the smartest and the generation that more studied. It is the most educated generation of all. And they forecast that it's going to remain like that, because when we compare to the Gen Zs, many will not go far. However, that brings a setback. And it's so interesting to see how the previous generations brought you to this. Because when you think about the previous generations, the X, the lost generations, and the baby boomers, they were very much not career-oriented, but they were self-aware. So they were entrepreneurs, they started to establish families, and it came from our previous generation, the mindset that I'll give to my children, you guys, what I didn't have. And there is something that you heard from very young, especially the girls as well. You are going to study. You need to study. So do you think this is the reason why? And that is the setback. Your generation is so given to education, to study, that we find 30-year-old men, 35-year-old men that are still having one diploma after diploma. And he never worked.
I think it's true because with the, like, I remember from the previous generation, especially here in South Africa, the employment opportunities were very limited. You could either be a nurse, a policeman, or a maid in a house. So those were the only opportunities available for us here in South Africa. But now with this new generation, we learned that you could become the president of the country if you want to. So it's like, I'm not going to stop until I become the president or the first female president of South Africa. So it's the mindset that we have. So if we need to study to get there, we will do it no matter what. So I think, yeah, we are really career driven in that, because we have a lot more opportunities than the previous generation.
And that landed you want to say something?
I was going to say yes, but also on the other side, which might link to whether we are really happy and as confident as we should be, is that...
really going there?
I was going to say that, as you mentioned, our parents, they grew up in more like of a stable environment, and they wanted to give us more than what they had. And education was that door for most of us, that, as Precious said, we were the first in our families to actually achieve that, because then we could dream of more than just being a policewoman, a nurse, or a maid in a home. And people keep studying because it's a goal that, the parents said you need to do. However, I think the other side of that, why people keep studying over and over, is that the reality of what the workforce requires and what it is, and what we thought it would be, with the parents saying, go to university, is going to offer you opportunities to be whatever you want to be.
what you learn in university and what's actually required in the real world don't necessarily match all the time. And so sometimes people get stuck on the education part, like, okay, I'm not finding the job that I want or that I think I deserve. So I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get that honors, I'm going to get that master's, I'm going to get that PhD without never actually entering the workforce. And it could not just be that, oh, they love to study. It could just be that the reality is just not matching. And instead of the person staying home, they choose to go back to school to continue studying further. So I feel like sometimes maybe the positive, the optimistic view that our parents had and what they wanted to give us might have set us up for failure in a certain aspect, because the world is not necessarily, it didn't necessarily change all of a sudden to cater for our big dreams and all the possibilities that we thought we could have. Yes, some things change, but at the same time, the people who were managing the workforce, the people who are making decisions, are those of the previous generation, and they operate differently than what we think we want to have in the workforce.
Because the previous generation didn't have as much as you had, and they want you to have it, but also deprived you a bit of that goal orientation. So if it doesn't work, I'll go back to school and I will study a bit some more and maybe it works. And then if it doesn't work, I'll go back to school and study a bit some more, and life goes on. But we girls probably heard from very young at home, you are going to study and be independent. Did any of you hear that? Let's go now.
I heard that a lot. It's a matter of you cannot depend on any man. You have to go to school so that you can make decisions. It just created that ideal that, okay, a marriage doesn't work. A marriage will oppress you. A marriage will get you to a certain point. I remember I even once heard that only poor people remain married because you can't afford to be independent. So if you have education, if you can do anything, then you're free. Then you'll be able to really reach your potential.
Who else? Mapaseka.
I think also that mindset was instilled because I was raised by a single mother. So I would see how like she was able to do so many things on her own. So for me, she was a role model. So when I saw that she could raise 3 girls alone, I was like, I want to be like her. So I had that mindset instilled that when I grow up, I am going to be an independent woman and basically support myself and not depend on anyone.
So who else heard this? Tsidi.
Okay, with me, it is the same because of I was raised by a single mother. So I had everything. So whatever that I wanted, I will get. So, so with me, it was like, okay, she is the single mother. I don't have a father to go to, but she always provides for me. So why not? So it's better for me to live like this. This is something that I told myself that, you know what? I'm going to study. After studying, I'm going to work, have my own car, have my own house, live the life because of, I do not see the reason of me getting married because of, I never had an example. There was no one to show me, no, you need to do like this because the example that I had, it was only my mother and she was my role model to me. So, yeah, she was there.
You see how interesting it is? Because they said, you're going to grow up, you're going to study, you're going to be independent. And what prompted you to do that was the example of your mother. Yes. I'm also a daughter of a single mother. But they managed to do all that they did for us because they didn't have the mindset that we had to depend on them. You see the difference here. And that leads me to my next point. How do you think your generation, male and female, sees marriage? Irene?
I think our generation, to be honest, we see marriage as a transaction. It's not necessarily about the person, but it's about, can this person step up to my independence? So I won't settle for somebody who's not as driven as me. So then you start to look at what has he achieved? Where did he study? What type of, it's not necessarily about the person or the marriage. It's about, like, a lot of couples even enter business transactions together because it's like, okay, she's in that company, I'm in this company. Let's come together and build this thing. But it's not necessarily valuing each other or caring about, I can say love, because like they said, we didn't have that example of, most of us didn't have that father figure. So we didn't really understand the role of this man in front of me. So it's more about what can I get out of it? And if you are below me, don't even come close, type of thing.
Do you agree, guys? Let me talk to them first. Do you agree?
Yes. I remember until obviously I switched up my choices in life. I saw, although I came from a family with good parents, I always saw marriage as old school. And with the mindset of a guy, I would have this, like, his late 40s, early or late 40s, then I'll start thinking about it.
You didn't want to get married, you want a nurse.
Yes, something along those lines.
Honestly. Then, Tumisani.
Okay, I can say because like growing up with a single parent and being raised by a grandfather and a grandmother, yeah,
it's a different structure then.
Different structure, because like I used to see like my grandmother, because they were like more role models, and so because my grandfather was I think 86 years when I check, then my grandmother is 76.
Very far reality
very
from
far, yeah.
who you
And so
were.
they motivated me the most, but because of not having a father figure and so forth, you cannot share like with your grandfather and so forth. And so like even I wanted to say
But how do you see marriage?
yes, and so they were motivating me. By the way, my grandfather and my grandparents, and so I just wanted to have a single person, to have a one person, not to change partners, because my grandfather set a good example towards me. He never cheated at all. Like I think maybe probably they may get married in 1950 something. Yeah.
The silent generation.
Yes. And so like that was my greatest inspiration. And so I used to look to them, because even though they used to share even with us a chicken, small onion and a chicken, we'll share together as a family, then we'll enjoy. And so sometimes even though he came up with something, we used to share as a family. And so they show me on how to be responsible, like in terms of being a man, to be responsible to your own spouse, and how to taste regardless of money, regardless of who is working, who's not working, regardless who does have money, who doesn't have it. Because even though my grandfather doesn't have money, while my grandmother does have money, they will share together and buy everything together.
Not like her.
And so and so that was my greatest inspiration, because I used to look towards them, and so that I wanted to be like this.
Wait, let the guys finish. Did you believe in marriage before?
No.
No, now you have to say you believe, no?
Yes.
We don't want you to create a marital problem here.
Yes.
No, Mapaseka?
Yes. Now
So at least say you believe now.
Yeah. So, but before, because both my parents were married, and they were also married at a young age, but it was different with them. The examples that I saw from them, especially from the relatives, it was not something that was motivating me to get married. So always how they resolved their problems, they would involve relatives. So, and it wouldn't end well. So it was something that I never imagined that I would be there, even today. And then from the way we grew up with my friends. It was something that said, no, we are still young, gents. Not now. Maybe, as he said, 40s. Then you are settling in. Now you are no longer going to go after anyone. You want someone that you will sit down and then maybe start a family and then do something with your life. But it was something that it was not in my mind. It was something that I never believed in marriage. Yeah.
Teboho?
Okay, I'll say no. Because I grew up with both parents, but my dad was living outside my mom. I was living with my mom. So when I grow up, we have a group of boys, which is a scheme. We all doing the same thing, like cheating and being players. So we were doing, or let me say, dirty things, sexual. Yes. So it was that thing of getting married is something like
No commitment.
I will never, ever, ever get married, because when you get married, it's like you are building your own jail for yourself. Your own jail for yourself, because you piece around with your girl. You see? Yeah.
That's it. Now they get, oh yes.
Just to add on what he said, I remember even amongst my friends, when you start to, beside marriage, when you start to mention things like you want to find someone and you'll be committed to that person, like as your girlfriend, they will start laughing at you. You are joking. That's still early. Don't be involved, because once you be involved, you are going to be hurt. Because love is something, it's how they define it outside, it's totally different. So when you are committed, then you are running a risk of being hurt. So they would advise you, not now, it's still early. Marriage is something, it's worse.
So we came to the conclusion that from the side of the guys, this generation sees marriage as jail, and let us push it, when I don't need a wife, I need a nurse, maybe 40, 50s. From the side of the girls, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think in our generation, I'm actually getting a different perspective than I thought. I thought that in our generation, it's much more possible to find more marriages, because we grew up in a generation where we saw a lot of divorces happening. And therefore, a girl, I think, let me speak for myself, I wanted to have that marriage. I can see it's rare around me, but I wanna actually have one person. I see all of these guys busy. It's girl after girl after girl after girl. What am I gonna get? Someone who's gone through all of them. So for me, I didn't want to also have to go through all these guys just to, I understand. I agree with her. There's a checklist. I mean, there is. But I did believe in marriage, mostly because around our generation, that's what we saw, the divorce rate going up, climbing higher and higher, to the point where now I don't think the Gen Zs, much of them would, go into marriage. They'll tell me if I'm wrong. But yeah, based on the example that's happening right now, divorce has become something that is rising higher. And in our generation, marriage was still something that was possible.
And that is the reason why this generation struggles with marriage, because of divorce.
But thank you so much. Someone believe still in marriage.
There comes the love therapy.
Thank you. But I realized as well that in our time, we started to change the place, the order of things. So because our parents did not succeed in marriage, they started to tell us, so study, work. So for the previous generation, family was the most important thing. So for a girl, first, you were growing up to build up a family. Then they didn't make it, most of them. Also myself coming with a mother alone. So then now she starts, you are not going to suffer like me. And our generation started to put married family in the last place. So now let us focus on the career. But we can change that.
But you see, the reality is that the guys, they said, let me enjoy my life before I commit. The ladies, though they wanted to get married, this generation is the one that brought more to the table women's rights. So it was when we heard more about feminism, about rights. So the ladies, they believe in marriage, but on that equality. So I am on the workforce, you are in the house force as well, you know? So we cook, we clean. It's in this generation that we came up with this. We go out, we share the bill. We get married, but we have separate bank accounts. I hope you two are not doing that, because of course us, we are married, but as from them, it's Mapaseka and him. Do we have anyone else married? But the concept of marriage, it would be like this. I am independent, so we marry because we like one another and we cannot live separately. But we both work out, we both work in. We have separate accounts. And we don't know how much you earn and you don't know how much I earn. So with that equality, because in this generation, it is when we brought more about women's rights to the table. In South Africa, in America, all over the world. And that's why it's so difficult for this generation to have long-lasting marriages and even to come to marry. You see in South Africa, marrying age for men, it's about 36, 38 years old. And in the previous generations, you would grow up knowing that your life would really start when you would be married, you would form a family. But I wanted to go back to where we started and we dropped the ball, because whenever we talk about love life, it diverts. Nah? We spoke about being educated, professional. And it is interesting that some of you said it's half-half, but your generation, it's none of entrepreneurs. Because you study much, you are career-driven. And because it's so difficult of the events you have been through, the Great Recession in our countries, the pandemic, September 11 was one defining moment of your generation. You're very easy to adapt and live from one paycheck to the other check. So the previous generation were more of entrepreneurs. They didn't have the level of education that you achieved. They didn't have, most of your parents didn't have diploma, certificates. So they had to make the ends meet. How? Small businesses, being entrepreneurs. As most of you guys studied, you are more satisfied with the hierarchy of career and to live from paycheck to paycheck. Do you agree with that? Yes. But I have a twist. Yes. The fact is, because of all that, you are very easy, very prone to give up, to be bored, to quit from this job to the other job from the minute that you see you're not progressing the way you planned, or you are not receiving increases the way you wanted. So at the same time you are career-driven, you give up. Can someone explain it for me? Talisa, you volunteered.
Okay, for me, it's like one of the qualities that you mentioned before, it's that this generation is self-aware. So we know what is it that we want, and we want to be objective about it. So if I get to think that, okay, I'm going to work from 8 to 7, but my salary is still the same, whereas someone tells me, "Lo, in this company, we have basic salary and commissions." So my mind is going to tell me, just move already. You don't even need to serve your notice, because for you, it's that moment, what is it that works for me? And then again, also, it's the moment of how you grew up.
you get to see that if my mother was able to make it more in selling or in making a small business, so I might as well push quickly to go there other than sitting in the office the whole day. That is why our generation is that one whereby if you don't keep me busy, I'll find ways for me to become busy. So it's easy for us to give up because we want to be objective. I can't work in the same company doing the same thing, but I don't see where I'm going. For me, it's that moment whereby if they say that in this company there's opportunities to grow, that's what I go for. But if I'm going to go in a company whereby I know I'm going to be stuck, that's where our generation, it's that one whereby I get to tell you in that company they are hiring, all of us, we're going. In that one, they are hiring, all of us, we're going, because we always looking
But
for
when
more.
your expectations are not met, or you need to work a bit harder to get to the point that you want, you quit.
I quit if my time frame is not met. If my time frame is not met, whereby they said to me in 6 months after your training you get hired, and they don't, there's no point of me staying. I'd rather move on to another thing.
No, it's true, because I remember that I used to work in a place and I worked really hard. I was really trusted with a lot of things, but I wouldn't get rewarded. And that made me very angry. I would even ask some of the employees, like, why am I not getting recognized? Why am I not getting rewarded? And I that made me to be less motivated to do my job. So I would see others getting rewarded, and they were longer in the in the company, and I was still new, less than a year, but I expected, I'm like, we're all working the same job, so why don't we get the same rewards? And they're like, Tammy, you're still new, wait. And but I'm working and I'm one of the best, so why am I not getting rewarded? So I really wanted to quit the minute that I saw I was not rewarded, and I was still putting the same effort as everyone else.
Yes. I think also the fact that you know you have other options, you won't be restricted to this. So if I'm not getting what I want here, I'll just look elsewhere. If I'm not getting this, as she was saying, in the time frame that I want, I know that there are more options, as opposed to what I believe in previous generations, maybe they did not have those options, so they had to make means. And with us, it's kind of like, okay, no, option A didn't work, we've got option B. There's always plan A, plan B, plan C, it goes to Z, then Z1, Z2, Z3. We'll keep going. And I also think that another contributing factor is with the fast pace of technology moving, we also have the mindset of things need to be fast. We want things done fast. Microwave mindset, 2 minutes and it must be done. So if I don't get what I want now, then okay, I'm moving on. Noodles didn't work.
It's sounding more like Gen Zs. Yes.
Yes, I think on the other side, like, we are unlimited. We have like different kind of goals that we want to achieve. Like sometimes if maybe probably work in a company, maybe in that company, you know that there's a basic salary, so Miss said, and there's commission, but only to find out maybe you are earning roughly a small amount. Then you will change because you hear maybe your friend said, hey, guy, that side, hey, there's a lot of perk, yeah. It's like, yeah, in the tenure of the lions, yeah, the money is great. And so you're like, guy, then they call you because we have connections. As our generation, we have connections, like we speak with each other, like we make sure that we share information. We are not greedy when it comes to information, and so there's no lack of information. We always pop up. Information is so quick for our generations.
And that goes in line with being adventurous.
Yes.
Your generation doesn't mind about studying abroad, but also working abroad, right? Yeah, Irene?
I think it goes back to the fact that we're so flexible. So because you know you're so flexible, you can fit in anywhere. We're very good in adapting. So because we're good in adapting, I'll speak for myself. I remember when I was working, I think I've worked in 4 different industries and I've changed like every 7 months.
Oh, gosh. So that is the point that puzzles me. It's good that you mention it. It puzzles me because at one hand, we understand you are career-driven, but I don't understand how you build a career changing employment, 4 employments and working 7 months in each place.
Yeah, but Sorry, so it's because of it goes back to what our parents instilled about being independent. So because we're in such a rush and in impatience to be independent, when you feel like it took my mom 20 years to achieve just a car, I'm not gonna wait 20 years just to get a car. I want a car in a year or at least 1 year, 6 months. If I can't get that, I need to move to something that will get me there. Because we saw how our parents suffered and you're trying to run as fast as you can away from that. So when you feel like you're getting stuck, you don't want to waste your time. Because, well, I can't speak for everyone, but for me it was I don't do 20 years and then I can only show a small house and a small car. So I'd rather it makes more sense to go until you find that job that will get you. And like you said, we want to climb the corporate ladder, but we're not patient enough to be in one department for 5 years. You're like as you said, I'm bored. I need something that will excite me. So I'll go study another degree so that I can go to
and
another
then you don't work
industry.
at all, and then you don't build a career. That is what puzzles me. But before we go on, when we talk about studying, we jump into profession, and of course, what comes next? Money. So we learned that Gen Zs, they are taken by the trends, by the names, by the brains. They want here now. How you think that your generation sees money? Because I have here an information that was really surprising to me. But I wanted to hear if it matches what I found.
I think we are more responsible. I can speak for myself. Like I think it goes back to our background, the single mother. So you have money and you're like, I have to use it responsibly. So I would say we are very responsible.
Who agrees?
I have a different view. And I don't know. I remember when I was working, and it's something that I also found out when I was doing my research, which I was like, okay, maybe, this is very interesting. I find that I remember when I was working, I quit my job. I was in marketing, and I quit my job because I was not fulfilled. I loved the field that I was in, but I had this thing that I'm not
You
fulfilled.
guys get bored very easily.
Yes. I think it's because the market has, the workplace changed. So in the beginning with our parents and the generations before, they would get into a company working as a trainee, then they become a supervisor, then they become a manager, then they become general manager. They would stay there all their lifetime working, step by step until they are like literally the CEO or some top manager. With us, things change that no education, no degree, unless we are talking about you being a doctor or something very specific, a scientist, no degree now offers you lifetime employment. It's all about, it's offering you employability. Many people, very few people actually work in the field of what their degree is about. You end up working in a different field because you just sort of apply what you learned in many different fields. So I think that's the main thing that makes our generation not to stay in one particular job for too long, because we are adventurous. You want to learn other things, but also the workforce is not offering you what you thought you were going to get. Like I said, our parents said, you can be anything that you want to be. Go into the world, you have all these opportunities. And these opportunities are so many that they are confusing us. Sometimes we don't even know what to pick because we have so much available and accessible to us compared to the generations before. So that's why I think we don't stay, because we have opportunities, but also that everything there's a glass ceiling. You have to sort of reinvent yourself for you to continue being relevant in the workforce that we have today because of technology, because of how the world has changed. And I read that our generation is the largest part of the workforce. And they estimate that by 2025, millennials are going to be 75% of the workforce. So companies need to sort of start thinking about what makes us tick, what works for millennials, because we are going to be the largest part of of their workforce. So I think, those main changes are the main one. There's no
You just
lifetime
said
employment.
something that is very characteristic of your generation. Did you hear yourself?
I did, but it's true. In terms of the workforce, it is true. We are going to be
Whenever we would look for a job or establish a career, we were there to give back to the company what they wanted from us. And you guys want the company to shape into what you want to give them. And that is why you jump from one place to the other.
I think because we feel like it goes back again to the previous generation. It's amazing how they started most
The
of
blame
it.
game is
It's
on
not a
us.
blame game, but because they didn't have that many opportunities. So we feel like we are raised to believe. I remember growing up and my mom was a domestic worker. So for her, it was precious when you're in school. Whatever sports that is there and you can participate in, you do it all, because I didn't get that chance to do so. If you're going to work and you can change careers, do so, because I couldn't do so. So in that, it also builds, I think in a way, without them seeing, they started making us also just run after the money as well, because then for them, success meant having the car, having the house. So we didn't just grow up thinking we need it can't be just a 4-room house. No. You want a bigger house. So I think our generation is at the pace whereby they feel like we missed out on a lot of things, unlike the Gen Zs who grow into this huge and lavish lifestyle. So we are working to build that, as Irene previously touched, that we don't want to wait 20 years, because we are thinking, if I'm going to start a family, that means my child has to go through what I went through. It might not be as worse as my parents went through, but the struggles that I went through, I don't want that child to go through. So most of them that have families or have children, they are working at that pace because they want to assure that that young child won't have the difficulties that they had. So I think it's also that. We just thinking, you're taught the world is your oyster, so let me go and just spread my wings and fly everywhere.
But money-wise,
yes,
would you say you are overspenders or not?
I'd say we are overspenders, to be honest.
Do you guys agree?
Some are, some are not. But mostly
Changing.
we see that they are
Can I read?
overspenders. Yes.
Can I read? The cheapest generation. Yes, they are defined by high student loan debt, high unemployment. And if they have a job, it's probably not particularly well-paying and offers few raises. And also because it is jumping from one job to the other because you are bored. You don't build financial stability. What characterizes your generation in terms of money? Sustainability and durability. And that's why today I'm not calling for a break with a song, but we are going to see some curiosities that prompt the fashion industry with the mindset with the millennials.
Okay, so millennials do a lot of things and say a lot of things. Almost all the changes in the world are influenced by none other than this generation. But there's one thing missing, something that hasn't been answered yet, and we know you want to know. What are the millennials wearing as they make all these changes through life? Well, these are 9 fashion staples that millennials cannot do without. Number 1, the skinny jean. Need we say more? 2, the over-the-knee boots. 3, throwback concert t-shirts. 4, the color that is so loved by them that it is named after their generation, millennial pink. This one stretches a bit further, being found in fashion, beauty, home decor, and digital design. The everyday tote bag. The going out top, to make that bold statement, of course. The Chelsea boot, aviator sunglasses, and to top it off, the silk camis. Without a doubt, you have seen these everywhere. But comment below which ones you have been seeing that weren't included on our list. Now, as much as millennials are known for breaking rules and making up their own, there are a set of rules that they absolutely abide by. Rule number 1, shoes must be comfortable, durable, and unique. Number 2, get involved in everything, even the making of your clothes. An important aspect is that feedback goes directly to the designer, helping him to know what works and what doesn't as the business grows. Number 3, avoid trendy labels from generations past and opt for classic or indie brands. Number 4, invest in heritage labels. 5, wear suits because you want to, not because you have to. 6, be socially conscious by knowing all the aspects of the brand you shop. 7, avoid conventional stores in favor of stylish yet affordable direct-to-consumer brands. 8, customize classics with personalizing options which are offered by more and more companies. 9, fully embrace athleisure, wearing workout clothes as everyday fashion. Number 10, treat signature high tops as a status symbol. In the fashion world, this is what the millennials are wearing and the style rules that they abide by. So what about you? Agree? Disagree? Share your comments, we would love to know.
And we are back after this break, and I'm sure you have learned quite a lot how this generation played a role, and I still want you to think about the influence that the millennials will have throughout the generations to come. But of course, we spoke a lot of good things, and we read 7 positive traits of this generation, but now I need to bring about 3 striking negative traits. And I wanted to hear from you if you relate to these or not. Don't justify yourselves, okay? Please. At least one thing I need to say, that Gen Zs, they are confident. Even when you say, do you think you are self-centered? Yes, we are. So let us try to do the same. 3 negative traits. You are undecided. I think we proved that, right? To be from one job to the other, to the other, to the other. You are narcissist and lazy. Yes.
Yes. Because
yes to the 3 ones, to the 3 of them.
No, to the last one, the
lazy,
the lazy one. So if you look at the unemployment rate, and if you look at how many of the people are actually millennials, you'll actually see that, because I say it's lazy because we want things to be given to us because our parents didn't get that, right? So we feel like all of these opportunities need to be given to us. And like the example of going from job to job to job. So if you don't find the job that you want, because you want the job to find you, right? You want that perfect job. And if
you
it's
want
not,
the company to fit to your needs.
Yes, to fit to you. So if it doesn't, then you give up. And when you give up, and that's why you find a lot of people in the townships unemployed. A lot of them, you won't find someone saying, let me start a business. Not a lot of people will do that, but you will find the street vendors, the few in our generation who'd be like, you know what, I'm not going to be lazy. I'm actually going to do something. But majority of millennials make up the unemployment rates. And it's because of laziness.
I want to talk about the being narcissistic. So it is a trend. We are arrogant. Let's just be honest. We really get arrogant.
No hard feelings, please. We said in the beginning, contenders respect each other.
Sorry to offend. But it's arrogance to think that you can jump to being a CEO just like that. Because an example for me, it's that I always told myself when I was in school, I will never have a job that doesn't require me to think. And I want to be able to say, when I speak something, it must be implemented and work.
So I never went to be like, let's say, in a retail. I never went there. So I applied for a job I didn't qualify for. But because it was a small company, they were like, oh, you're so confident, so let's hire you. So I went for marketing. I was studying film, but I was like, I won't be unemployed, and I'm not about to get a job just because I'm desperate. So I will go for that marketing. I didn't know the field. I didn't know anything about VR, but I went there and I was like, I want to do the marketing, and they put me in the marketing. But in that place, when I finally had to make the decisions, then it hit. Wait, I don't know anything. I didn't study any of this. So I would go to my friend who studied marketing saying, give me as much information as possible so that in the meeting, I have something to say. Because one of the complaints was that, okay, so we hired you to be the marketing, but our marketing isn't working. There's no movement in our marketing department. And it's like, I don't know how to speak to businesses. I don't know how to do this. But in the beginning, I said, I will not go for a job where I'm just going to be there and I will make no difference. I want to have a say. And when I had a say, I had nothing to say. So that was the problem.
I'll have a say. Write it down. I'll have a say. And when I have to say, I had nothing to say. I think that packs it all, right?
And I think as well, we are a lot of our generation is actually are narcissists because they only think about themselves. If we look at a lot of bills that are introduced, a lot of laws that are changed, it's never about the collective. It's about, I don't feel happy. I don't like the way things are working. So if I'm in power and I have a way of changing the law, I am going to change it. So that makes us, I think, selfish in a way because we are a generation that if I'm entitled to it and I feel like this is what will make my life easier, as she said, we are lazy. So whatever makes life easy, then I'm going to keep on that. And that's why we have a lot of them that stay in the corners, like in the townships and not working because they tell themselves, like Lesedi said, I won't go to a low-end paying job. I'm not going to be a security guard in order for me to pay for my tuition fees and then graduate. No. Our generation is, I'll go to school, I'll apply for the NAFSAs, for the bursary, for whatever, and I will not go and work. But when we look at the previous generation, they did the opposite, actually, because I remember I had an uncle who studied to be a pharmacist. But I saw him work. He would be in university during the day and in the evening leave the house to go be a security guard. And I remember my cousins and I, the younger ones, would be like, never. Like, I will never go be a security guard. Like, what will people say? What will they think? Like, you're intelligent, you're smart, you got such great grades. Some companies should give you a bursary because of your race, because of your work ethic and all of that. So we are, in a way, narcissists because we think that things should work our way. That's why if you look at everything around us, a lot of things have changed. Our parenting styles have changed. So what I didn't like that my mother used to do, I'm not going to do it with my child. Not thinking how that actually helped me, saved me, but because I didn't like maybe being told you're not going to come back before 6, or you're not going to come back after 6 o'clock, I'll say to my child, no, come back 8 p.m., but not realizing the danger that the child will be in at that time. So we are, in a way, I think we think we're changing the world, but clearly it's not that positive.
Definitively. What we can conclude is that your generation is changing the world. We just need to establish in which direction. That's what we're trying to do today.
I think also added to what Ms. Precious was saying, as we mentioned in the beginning, because education was the main focus, I can't step out of that education, that job in which I studied for. So as Ms. P was saying, I'm going to be a security guard. No ways, because my generation requires me education. And then comes the other part, the arrogance to it. How are the others going to see me? My friends are studying for this. My friends are studying for that. I become a domestic worker or becoming a cashier or a security guard. So I think the laziness and the narcissism. Yes.
Because our pride in our generation, it was to start independence, but to start working at very early age. I started at the age of 13. I started working at the age of 13. I would study in the morning, study in the afternoon, work in the afternoon, get home, do homework, start again. Then in our country, for us to go to varsity, we work the whole day, we leave, work at 6, we ride 1 or 2 buses, then we go to varsity until 11:30. We get home at 1, we wake up at 6, and that would bring to us, self-value, self-confidence, and pride. Now, I see the values have changed to this generation. That pride comes if I can study, but I'm not going to submit myself to this and that. Just going to one last topic here, and then I'm going to do a few questions. I asked you, and I said, do you really want to go there? If your generation was happy, and common sense, it was what? Happy. Do you think you are an insecure generation?
Yes.
So, what I found out, and it's one point we need to pay attention to. Because we live in a culture of constant comparison through the internet, the more you can boast about being narcissist, you have high levels of insecurity. And that insecurity leads you to wrong choices or no choices at all. And that's why this generation, unfortunately, is among the stats, stop on substance abuse and suicide. So we are not really happy. Are we? Is what we see. Other generations would have a rate of 8%, and the millennials go up to 12%. Because of everything that is being through, the depression, unemployment, difficult, it's a generation that it's more given to depression and to suicide. Isn't that sad? And that leads me to the last piece of information of the day. God. 43% of this generation does not believe in God. Did you know that? 47 claims to believe in God, but 47% believing in God does not mean they live with God. So we can now explain the frustration, the voidness, and the tendency to drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and suicide. How many of you here were addicts before? Consume any kind of drug or alcohol? Keep your hands up. How many of you thought about suicide? I think we proved the point, isn't that? So we see how difficult it is. Now, in few words, we spoke about the Gen Zs are the continuation to our generation. We brought up this and this and that. So what did you see in the Gen Zs that actually started in your generation? Pastor, I remember you fighting with them about being the Zoomers and Skypes, and they look at us and said, we don't watch YouTube.
Yes. I think we are the pioneers, and they just upgraded, or the other way around.
Or deviated?
They just made it worse, let me put it that way. They just took it to another level, but definitely ours, because the internet started by us. We started the texting thing. It started small, aka Mix It. Most of us here, sorry Gen Zs, you probably don't know what Mix It is. We'll explain it after.
We were going to put in our
yes, a disclaimer.
Disclaimer and explanation.
But we started the whole thing. I mean, I remember talking a couple of weeks ago to a group of Gen Zs, and I was amazed, astounded by how they are so addicted to it. But if I also rewind, I used to do that. I used to be under the blanket with my phone. And my parents would walk in, put the phone away, we started it, and are we to blame for the Gen Zs? Obviously, as an individual, no, because everybody makes their choice. But in general, yes, definitely. I do think we have a lot to blame, the way we're shaping the world, the mindset of people. And as we were talking here at the break, we are very divided. So one person is raising the flag for one color, the other one's raising the flag for something else. And if we are divided, the following generation is even more divided. Because if there are 4 groups here...
we saw last month, don't worry.
Yes. So, if 4 of us are disagreeing here, the next generation, if you half those 2 for each group, that's already 8. So I think it's just a snowball effect. And it's very easy for us to blame the previous generation. I think all of us here mentioned the previous, including myself. We all said the previous generation. So honestly speaking, we're not progressing. We're regressing. We're moving backwards. We're on reverse. Some things, technology, internet, on the positive side of it, the convenience here and there. But I think we lost the plot. And just touching up on what we spoke earlier, we lost our priorities. We lost the idea of family, and then career came first, education came first. We completely lost the priority, we lost the plot.
What else?
I think when it comes to faith, as you mentioned, the percentage, the number of millennials who don't believe in God, we see how multiplied it is in the Gen Zs, because now it's very common to hear Gen Z saying that they are atheists. They really don't believe in God at all. And it's because of course, the rise of the internet. Before, the generation before, they believed in going to church. They believed every Sunday they have to be in church. But then I think for the millennials, it's like, if my parents are not succeeding in life, this whole religion thing is not working, why should I continue with it? So that's why we see with millennials, more specifically, a lot of religions and cults beginning, because they only take what they like from the Bible and they infuse it with other religions that they like. So they only take the things that they like to form a new religion. So I think what the Gen Zs did from us, and they took it to extreme levels, was the faith part. Now they are very bold to even go on the internet and say that they are atheists, they don't believe in God. And we see a lot of millennials leaving the faith because it doesn't work for them anymore. So I think the faith part is the one thing that the Gen Zs took to another level.
The laziness, now when we go back to that, millennials feel like everything needs to be given to them, right? The job must suit them and everything, and there must be a job that's given to them. And when you look at the Bible, that's quite contrary to what God has said we must do. It says faith without works is dead. So God wants us to go out there and actually start things, go out there, like knock on that door. He wants you to act, and then he will act, So our generation that wants us, wants to be spoon-fed, kind of lost the plot there as well. And then that's why now they don't believe it. God doesn't hear my prayers. God doesn't, when we're actually the ones who are not doing what God says we must do.
And the Gen Zs feel themselves entitled. So actually they got from you guys. What else, Precious?
Another thing that I was thinking of is the crisis that we're facing as the world, whereby we're seeing even the Gen Alphas now committing suicide, because you just touched base on that we are not happy. So because automatically we are not happy, and we're not happy because...
And we are the parents.
Yes, and we're the parents, because a lot of the Gen Zs, like my former friends in high school got pregnant in high school, so they are the mothers of the Gen Zs. So in that, because they are not happy and our priorities are twisted, because some of those that get married, they're not getting married because they want a family. It's more of a status thing. I want to prove to my paseka that I'll be different than her and I will get married. So I can do everything she does being married, but it's not really a marriage. So when that child is in that household, they feel like a stranger. It's something that the Gen Zs touched based on. And they said, we'd rather talk to strangers because our parents are not present. And when they're present, they judge us because we have double standards ourselves as well. We still expect the Gen Zs to act like Palisa touched based on that. When your mom would say, the same way I brought you in, I can take you out. And you had that fear. You want that little one to have it, but you don't have that relationship. The reason we feared our mom and really believed that she could out me out of this world was because I had a relationship with her. So I knew what made her tick. I knew what made her happy and all of that. But with this generation, this child now just meets your other side. Now that day you want to be your mother. You know what needs to work. You've been spoiling them all along. And you take everything away from them. And because they don't know how to deal with loss because you haven't taught them that, that's why they resort to ending their lives. So that was something that I saw that, yes, with our generation, it seems it is big, but then the younger ones, like they're doing it at a faster pace, like because that if a 4-year-old is able to watch a video and they're learning how to commit suicide, my question is, where's the mom? Why is a child getting entertainment from that tablet or whatever device it is? So I think that's one thing that I really saw, that it actually did start with us, because in the few families where you see the child sometimes attempting suicide, it was because they've seen their parent attempted and they don't even know that the child was watching.
That's it. Yes.
Like I think in terms of us, like we grew up like with those parents, like you must go to church and so forth. You must follow this example. You must be this certain person. You must behave like this. You must read books and so forth. And so for them, like those who do the new ones, they are more focus on like tablets and so forth. There's technology. They can able to have access to internet and so forth. I don't need a Bible. The Bible is heavy. I must have my own smartphone, and so I can able if everything maybe has been erased in my smartphone, I can able to download it again and again and again. And so actually regarding like books and so forth, for them to carry a Bible is heavy. And so for them to read books, no, they don't need books. I can download books. So
you taught them the shortcuts. Is this what you're saying, in other words? Or am I putting words in your mouth? And now we complain, right?
Actually.
But your generation taught them the shortcut.
Generation.
I think it's never easy to, like, if we were to be completely honest, nobody will admit, like, it's like looking at the mirror when you look at Gen Zs. But it's just that we do it in a more sophisticated way. I think that's how it's like you'll never admit, as they say, if your child behaves like that, it's because you behave like that. So clearly we don't want to admit it, but they're doing what we are doing. And it's just that they might be doing it faster, but I also disagree, because some of the millennials are doing exactly like the Gen Zs. There's no difference if you look at them, especially the younger ones. Sometimes it's even the reverse, that the millennials are a bit worse than the Gen Zs. But that's because we're looking at a mirror.
And talking about a mirror, that is one of the conclusions I want you to reach today. Somehow, who I am today will reflect in my next generation. So most of them, to a certain extent, they blame the previous generation or they mirrored the behavior. They are exactly what the previous generation, their parents told them to be. Be independent, don't find a job, don't get a husband, you have your rights, go and study. And they went into that because they did what they were told to do. And as a generation furthering other generations, we come to the conclusion that the Gen Zs, the alphas, will reflect their values. That brings me to the conclusion of today's show. In 2025, the millennials will be the leading generation in the workforce. Not only that, the millennials are the leading generation, the largest population in the world. So can we agree that it's up to us to think about the legacy that we want to share with them, especially when we talk about the legacy of God. I just wanted to conclude to leave with you Psalm 78 from verse 6 to 7, that the generation to come might know them, the children who would be born, that they may arise and declare them to their children, that they may set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments. What God is expecting of us, whatever generation you may be, but moreover, the millennials, the predominant generation in the world, is to consider the legacy that we are leaving for the Gen Zs, for the Alphas, for the ones who are coming, still on their way and will be coming. Are we going to leave them hopeless or hope? Are we going to leave for them faith or faithless? And according to what we believe, according to what are our values, we are going to form the next generation. So I wanted to propose that we take up the challenge to leave for them a generation which trust, which guidance comes from the work of God. It's up to you, from the millennials, to do it. Start paying attention to your kids. Start investing in family. Start living your life according to the ways of God. And that will teach your kids, the kids of your kids, in the way to go, as this word says. It's up to you, it's up to me to teach our kids not to forget the works of God and to follow his commandments. Pastor, would you pray for us? For this generation to become, the legacy, to leave the legacy of God for the next one.
Let's pray. My Father, the moment anyone takes a decision to put you ahead of things, as this verse teaches us, to trust in you, to obey your commandments, when we don't deviate from your word, it is, my Lord, definite, it's imminent, my Lord, it's sure that we will succeed, beginning with our own lives, not just on the outside, not just an appearance, a facade for others to be impressed, but the true joy and happiness which begins inside of us as an individual. May each and every word which they received be, my God, an instruction, a guideline for each and every one of them right now to take the decision and set their priorities straight, set the priorities right, and put you ahead of all things. In this way, we will be able to pass on to the other generations the true faith. Because in the past, that's what the apostles did. That's what your servants did. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. But we are here today because someone left a legacy of faith. And this is the legacy I pray that we leave behind for others, because without faith, it's impossible to please you. I pray for them right now that each and every individual may take this decision to allow you to lead, to allow you to be in charge, to trust you. This I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. So think about the legacy you are leaving. And if you think this series is over, we have round number 3. But that is going to be so beautiful, because we are going to reflect on the lessons that we learned from the Gen Zs, from the millennials, what went wrong and how we can change. So in the month of April, we're coming back with this topic, lessons learned from generation to generation, and how to leave God's legacy to the next ones. Until then, God bless you all. Until next week, Friday, 3 p.m. Bye-bye.
Look at you. So beautiful, graceful. Oh wait, is that a wrinkle? Before you panic, it's good. Great actually. Because it represents the fullness of the life that you have lived so far. The ups and the downs, the promises broken and kept. Now imagine what your character represents when it comes to family, friends, job, city, the list goes on. Mind-blowing, right? But you'll have to watch this Friday at 3 p.m. to find out just how far representation actually goes.